Hi everyone, it's Kat. If you are new to me, welcome to my channel, and if not, welcome back. I'm glad that you are enjoying the videos enough to pay me another visit. So today we are going to get some more movement back in because we haven't done that in a little while. And to follow up on the recent video that I did seated, so the seated open hip lower back practice, I wanted to go ahead and incorporate a standing practice that you could pair with that. Like I said before, that practice could be used as either a warm-up or a cool-down or both. And so I want to give you that middle piece in there, which is an additional warm-up and standing practice that you can use to help open your hips, help relax some of the muscles of the lower back, and also get into the legs as well. And I find that a lot of the poses that I'm going to show you are ones that I use pretty frequently, both to teach and for myself, because just the reality of living in our modern culture is that we spend a lot of time sitting, either commuting in our cars, if you're somebody that flies a lot, or has a job that involves a lot of driving around, or traveling in any capacity, or if you're somebody that has a job that requires you to spend a lot of time seated, we just start to get a lot of tightness in our hips and in our low back, hamstrings area especially, and I mean you also will get the curvature in the spine, upper spine as well, which I'm going to address in another video. But for today, we're going to focus on the parts of the body that are really affected, by sitting and traveling and just, being more sedentary if that's a part of your life. So what I'm going to do is start off with some sun salutations. You may be familiar with these if you've practiced yoga before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through it 3 times. Usually for warm-up purposes, it's good to do several rounds of sun salutations. So I would normally, if I'm teaching or practicing on my own, do at least 3 rounds. But when I do it this time, I'm going to show you 3 different versions, because sun salutations, I know I did an earlier video that was just half sun salutations that didn't involve coming down on the mat. But I'd love to show you some ways to do the sun salutations that can be a little bit more accessible if you're somebody that doesn't feel comfortable getting fully into plank or coming down through chaturanga onto your belly, so that you can either stick with those as your modifications or use those until you want to work up to something like plank. So we're going to start with those, and then we'll bring in a few standing poses that you can use to really open up that lower part of your body. Okay, here we go. So like I said, we're going to start with sun salutations. So I'm going to start with, I hate to use the term easiest, but maybe most accessible version first, and then we'll work up into sort of an intermediary version, and then we'll get into kind of the standard version that you would probably see in a yoga class. So we're going to go ahead and think about spreading your feet hips distance apart. If you feel like you're really tight, you could even heel toe your feet a little bit wider, but traditionally you stand with feet hips distance apart. You're going to inhale your hands up to the sky, and as you exhale, shift your hips back as you come into your forward fold. This doesn't have to be super deep, just go as far as feels comfortable. Inhale, bringing your hands to your shins and reaching through the crown of your head to lengthen your spine. And then on your exhale, you're just going to gently bend your knees until your hands hit the mat. Walk them out and drop your knees to the mat. From here, you're going to do your cat-cow. So on your inhale, you're dropping your belly as you lift your head and tail to the ceiling. And as you exhale, you're going to come into your cat, arching your back. And then you're going to shift your hands forward on your inhale. And then as you exhale, you're going to lift your hips up and back to the sky, coming into downward facing dog. Stay here for 1 round of inhale and exhale. And then on your next inhale, bend your knees and walk your feet up to your hands, coming back into your forward fold. Inhale to that half lift again, hands to shins. Exhale to fold. And then inhale to slowly roll up the spine, coming up to stand as you lift your arms above your head, and exhale your hands in front of your heart. So we'll move into the second version on our second round, inhaling your hands up to the sky, and exhaling to fold forward. Inhale to your half lift here, reaching long through your spine, and then exhale to fold. This time you're going to reach your hands forward as if you were coming into plank, and then you can bring your knees down, but you're going to bring them a little bit farther past. So instead of having under your hips as you were doing the cat-cow, you're going to have them a little farther back. Then you're going to lean forward over your hands, bend your elbows, and gently lower onto your belly. And from here, you're going to come into your Cobra Pose. So you're inhaling, just a little baby cobra since we're just starting out. Lifting up, and then exhaling back down. And as you inhale, you push back to this modified plank pose and come up, if you want to, into downward facing dog. Take an inhale here, and then walk your feet forward to meet your hands on your exhale, folding forward. Inhale to your half lift, reaching through the crown of the head. Exhale to fold. And then inhale your hands up to standing, exhaling in front of your heart. So we're going to do one more sun salutation, and we're going to do the one you most traditionally will see in your yoga classes. So you're inhaling your hands up to the sky, exhaling to fold forward, inhaling to your half lift, and exhaling as you step back into your plank. As you inhale, you want to rock forward on your toes and exhale down. From here, you're going to inhale into your cobra or upward facing dog, whichever you feel most comfortable with. And exhale to plant your hands, lifting your hips up into the air and pressing back into your downward facing dog. Pausing here for one round of breath. And then on your inhale, you can lift your heels and walk your feet forward to meet your hands. Inhale to your half lift. Exhale to fold. And then inhale your hands up to the sky and back down in front of your heart. Now at this point, you should start to feel a little bit more warmed up, which is good because we don't want to get into the standing poses until you've had a chance to warm up your muscles a little bit. So if you're feeling your heart race a little bit, breathing is getting a little more shallow, you can just take a few deep breaths. And then from here, you're going to step your right foot forward. So you're going to stand at the top of your mat and step your left foot back. So we're just coming here into a high lunge. So your right foot is planted on the ground and then you're on the ball of your back toes. Now, if this feels too much, you can always drop your knee down and come into a low lunge, but we're gonna stick with the high lunge because it's gonna make it easier to get into our next pose. But this is always an available modification for you. So when I'm teaching high lunge, I like to cue people to bend your back knee first. And then think about lifting, if you can think about lifting your hip bone up towards your rib. So you're really engaging the abs. And then stretch back out that heel. If you do that, you should feel a little bit more of a stretch across that hip flexor, which is really good because that's a hard muscle to get into and something we definitely want to keep loose if we're doing a lot of sitting. So you can stay here like this, where you can bring your hands in front of your heart. Or if you want to come into the full expression of the pose, you can inhale your hands up to the sky, reaching through your fingertips, but remembering to keep your shoulders dropped. You can take a couple rounds of inhale here. And then take one more inhale, and then on your exhale, we're going to spin, coming into our Warrior Two pose. So with Warrior Two, you want your back foot, in this case it's my left foot, parallel. So think about this, the edge, outside edge of your foot is going to be parallel to the back edge of your mat. And then looking at your front foot, you want your toes pointed forward and your heel almost pointing towards the arch of your back foot. So the heel of your right foot should be pointing towards the arch of your left foot right now. And then you want to bend into your knee a bit, but you want to make sure that your right knee or front knee is not going past your ankle. And if you feel like the knee is collapsing in a little bit, just bring your hand and kind of straighten it back out again. You probably are going to feel tightness through here because again, this is a muscle area that we don't stretch very often, but gets really tight. So just go as far as feels comfortable, trying to keep these arms parallel to one another, keeping your shoulders dropped and then looking out over the fingers of your front hands. Take one more inhale here, and then on your exhale, bring your hands to your hips. You're going to turn your right foot or front foot forward so that your toes are now facing in the same direction. You might want to slightly heel toe the feet a little bit closer if you want, and then you can either keep the feet pointing forward or you can pigeon toe them a little bit if you like. What we're going to do is we're going into a wide-legged forward fold, so you're shifting your hips back. And then as you exhale, you're going to lower down, letting your head and your hands hang towards the ceiling. Now, don't strain yourself to try to reach down. You want to just let gravity help you here. And make sure to keep a slight bend in your knees as well. But you will, as you come down, start to feel that stretch along the hamstrings. We just don't want it to hurt. So that's the reason for keeping a little bit of bend in the knees. So go ahead and exhale as you lower down. And just try to relax here as much as possible. You can reach your hands forward, you can reach them back. Some people like to flip their hands and reach through. You can grab your ankles, whatever variation feels good here. But really just letting the head hang low, maybe shaking the neck side to side, back and forth, just letting everything relax a little bit, letting gravity do its job. And then on your next inhale, you're going to really bend those knees as you start to roll up to standing. And now we're just going to flip and do the same sequence on the other side, but we don't have to move. You can just turn now your left foot so that it's facing forward, and then come up onto the ball of your right foot this time, coming into the high lunge, remembering that coming down is always an option here. And then when you are getting set up, you want to bend that back knee, lift the hip towards the rib cage, and then straighten your heel back out, getting that nice stretch through the hip flexor, keeping your hands here, or lifting them up to the sky as you make sure your shoulders stay down as much as possible. And then take a few inhales and exhales here as you continue to reach through that back foot. Then on your next inhale, you're coming up and rotating, coming into your warrior two on the other side. You may have to kind of heel toe your feet out a little bit if you need. So then checking in with your feet again, right? So looking at the back edge of your mat, paralleling the side of your right foot this time. Checking in with your left knee, making sure it's not collapsing in, trying to kind of rotate, we call it an external rotation, through the left thigh. And then dropping in a little bit, getting that nice stretch through the inner thighs, keeping the shoulders relaxed as you spread your wings, and then gazing over the middle finger of your left hand this time. Taking one more inhale here, and then exhaling your hands to hips as you flip your feet so they're facing the same direction. Once again, you can keep your feet parallel. If you need to heel toe them in a little bit, you can, or you can pigeon toe a little bit before you come into your wide-legged forward fold. So take one inhale, thinking about really reaching through the crown. You want a nice long spine before you bend over. And then on your exhale, you're shifting your hips back, making sure you have a slight bend in your knees, and then folding forward, just relaxing the head, neck, and shoulders, letting gravity help to stretch those out a little bit for us. And then on your next inhale, you're going to bend those knees and gently roll up to stand, letting your shoulders and neck be the last to come up. And now we're going to heel toe the feet in a little bit. And then this time you're going to point your feet, your toes, so they're facing out towards the corners of your mat, heels facing in, but at an angle, so they're not heels aren't matched up. They're kind of at an angle. And then we're going to come down into what's called a squat. Now, this may not be the most comfortable pose if you have not done it before or if you're really tight. I forgot to bring one with me today, but you always have the option if you want to grab a block or some kind of cushion and put it underneath your bum when you lower down to the mat, and that'll help support you. Or you can kind of do it from a higher point, but I will show you some of the options. So as you inhale, you can bring your hands together at your heart space and then exhale to start to lower down. Now, if this is as far as you can get, that's fine. You can always bring your hands to the outside or sorry, the inside of your knees and kind of press the legs away, kind of or push them back. And then you will definitely feel some stretch here. But if you want to give the squat a try, you just continue to lower down. I actually have to bring my legs a little closer. You continue to lower down. And the goal is to get the elbows inside the knees so that you're able to kind of press them away. And then you want to think about having your tailbone pointed towards the mat. Now, I know when I started doing this, I was kind of a little bit more like this just because I was so tight. But I was able to eventually get myself to this space just through practicing it. And like I said, there's always the option to put something underneath you like a block or a cushion to help support you. And that way you can kind of focus on stretching the inner thigh versus trying to keep your balance. So once you settle in here, you can take a couple breaths. If there's anything, if this is feeling, I guess, overly challenging, but you want to still give it a try and it's not causing pain, you can always kind of rock a little bit too. That was a tip that one of my teachers gave me, that the rocking motion can actually help some of the muscles relax. So if you want to try to, if it feels challenging but not painful and you want to try to stick with it, but you need a little, I guess, comfort or soothing for your body, you can rock a little bit here too as you're thinking about pressing your palms together as you stretch and push your elbows against the knees. Now from here, you can either fold forward, put your hands to the ground, and kind of work your way back up, inhaling as you roll up. Or if you want to have a little fun, I like to throw this in on my classes sometimes. You can get back down or stay in your squat pose. So I'll go back down here. And I'm just switching to the side so you can see what I'm doing. Oops, and I'm going to fall over this time. And from here, if you want to have a little fun, you can actually play around with an arm balance called crow. So often people will feel more comfortable if they put a cushion or a blanket in front of them. We call it a crash pad. You'll see why. But the way that you can get into crow from the squat pose that we're in right now is that you place your hands down. You want to think about spreading your fingers far apart and really kind of almost suctioning your hands in. And then the way I've found it easiest to do is you are going to kind of lift your hips up into the air. You're thinking about squeezing your knees into your outer arms, tricep area, and kind of getting up on your toes. And all you're trying to do, you don't want to like try to jump. You're just going to lean forward. Again, you're kind of using gravity to help you. And I'm realizing I'm a little sweaty and slippery, so this may not work. But you just want to lean forward, and you can experiment with lifting one foot at a time if you want to, or even just going like this can build your strength. So if you want to work up to it, you can start out this way. But like I said, I think because I'm a little slippery, I'm not going to hang on right now, but you just kind of let gravity do its work to help you get into that. So maybe I'll do another, a little more descriptive video on a day that I'm not slippery and sweaty for you on crow. So anyway, let's get back from our squat. Like I said, coming from the squat, folding forward and rolling back up to stand. Bringing your hands in front of your heart and maybe just pausing here, feeling the beating of your heart, feeling maybe the respiration a little shallower and needing some attention. So thinking about drawing the breath from the chest into the belly. And there we have it. That's your standing series on helping to loosen up the hips, lower back, quads, and inner thighs, which should really help if you've been doing a lot of traveling or you're in a job that's really requiring a lot of sitting. And like I said, you can pair this. You can do the stretches that I showed from the seated series and then do this and then finish up. with the seated series, or you can mix it up a little bit. But you just want to always remember that it's important to do some stretching and some warming up before you get into these standing poses, because if you try to get into these poses before you've warmed up, you could actually create some micro tears in your muscles, which will not be good for the body in the long term. So we try to avoid that. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to post them below or send me a direct message. I'm happy to answer. And if there's anything else that you want to learn about or want to ask me about, please feel free to post it below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks so much.